Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
I am Jay Kumar, Assistant Professor in Environmental Science at Geetham University, Bengaluru campus. Today, we are going to discuss about the module 6, which speaks about the various climate change issues. Well, at the outset, I thank Dr. Balaji and DTH Swayam Prabha for permitting me to deliver this lecture. In today's presentation, we are going to discuss about the climate change, global warming, ozone layer depletion, acid rain, and the impacts on human communities and agriculture. In fact, these are the current burning issues of this present century. And these factors are predisposing for very many pandemics, including the corona as well as the recent locust swarming. Now, we have to understand the basics. Now, let us look on to climate change. What is climate change? We know that weather. Weather means what is the weather condition today? Is it sunny? Is it bright? Is it cool? So, what is the sun's situation? Whether we are having a warm day? What is the temperature recorded? All these things we just look on. On an average, what is the weather data? On an average, how an area is having the weather? That average weather is referred to as climate. Another thing, climate refers to general weather conditions. So it is being recorded over a period of time and it gives a proper understanding over the season. Whether you could find the variations in the season, whether we had an earlier shower, earlier rain or a monsoon, or we have got an extended summer, whether the winter got shortened, all these factors are being monitored over a period of time of a particular area and that is referred as climate. And this climate is being taken for a period of 30 years and what are the variations that are persisting over a period of time, over a long period of time refers to the climate of a particular area. As a whole, if you just look on to India, the summer starts from April and extends up to July or August. So you could find a hot climate and a humid climate. On the other hand, the winter for India is between December, January and February. So somewhere around March onwards it recedes. But in some particular regions it extends up to March. We get our first shower by around June or July or in the month of August, September. Sometimes it extends and all these variations are being changed today. So that is what we refer to as climate change. Now, first we have to understand the Earth's energy budget. Earth is the planet which receives sunlight and from the sun. So the Earth is rotating around the sun, revolving itself, revolving around the sun. It is rotating by itself and revolving around the sun. This is the basics physics we have studied. Now, from the sun, the light is coming. So the light is coming in the form of radiations. When it is coming in the form of radiations, they are all generally high energy radiations and it takes a lot of time to travel to the earth. That we say it as a solar constant or whatever it might be. So the sunlight comes, it has to penetrate and enter to the earth. It has to pass through atmosphere. In the atmospheric region, we have studied that there is a particular part called ozone which is present in the stratosphere which filters the harmful UV radiations. And the radiations is coming in the form of a plain light. That is what the simple principle, that is how we get our light. So when the light is coming in the form of a radiation. So the radiation will be having some energy. If the incoming radiation is coming, the sunlight gets absorbed. First it is getting absorbed, it is getting refracted back. From its angle of incidence, it gets changes in the other direction. Third thing, it will get reflected back. So these three things happens when the sunlight falls on the earth. So if the incoming energy, if it is greater than the outgoing energy, in the sense more amount of energy is coming, so it is a positive sign. As a result, the climate is changing and it is increasing. Rather, in a simpler term, the temperature is increasing. So if the incoming radiations are more and the outgoing radiations from the earth, if it is very less, if the energy levels are less, it shows that the total surface is getting warmed up. That is called as a increase in the climate change. On the other hand, if more energy goes out, then the energy budget is negative and the earth experiences cooling. That is a point to be noted. It is an alternate thing. In fact, people say that in the case of nuclear holocaust, all of a sudden if all the nuclear weapons blast another thing, it might lead to the cooling of the environment. That is one of an hypothesis being proposed by the scientists. That is one of the negative aspect said about the nuclear holocaust. So this is what the simple understanding we should know. So coming to the next point, what changes the climate? What are the factors that are driving towards the change in the climate? So in the summer you should find hot, in the winter you should find cold, in the rainy season you get the rain, and you find an autumn season or a spring season where you find a conducive environment. But still, why these seasons are messed up? Why they are getting extended up? What are the factors making the changes in the climate? So this is a standard question being asked in any of the university. On an examination perspective, these points have to be understood. 1. Sun's output. Earth's orbit, drifting continents, volcanic eruptions, greenhouse gases. We will just look one by one. First comes the sun's output. On the right hand side, you find a graph. In the graph, it is very clearly shown that over a number of years, you could find the energy output has been increased. In the sense, the solar energy coming to the Earth's surface, the radiations over the years has increased. In the year 1750 to 1950, it was 0.1%, and today it has get doubled up. In the sense, at least zero point 0.1 degree centigrade extra. So you could find zero point 0.1 degree centigrade by the last century. Every year 0.1 degree centigrade temperature is increasing. Last year 2019, Hyderabad and Delhi recorded the maximum temperature. That is an information you can search it from the Indian Meteorological website. So what does this indicate? The solar output, the energy from the sun is increasing more. So if the energy from the sun is increasing more, two angles we can discuss. Positive aspect. Can we capture the solar energy, convert it into a solar energy or whatever it might be? It could be a non-conventional energy. Solar lighting could be made. Solar batteries could be made. That could be a positive aspect. On the other hand, if excess amount of sunlight is there, this radiation should go back. It is not going back. It is getting trapped in the Earth's atmosphere itself. It is not getting reflected back. So ultimately the solar output has increased, and as a result there is a change in the climate, increase in the temperature. As a result, 2018 and 19 you have got an extended summer. In fact, March 1st or 2nd week itself we experienced summer in India, and it got extended up to August. So that is a point to be noted. Next, if you just look onto the Earth's orbit, Earth means what? Earth is revolving around the sun. It is going around the sun in one direction or in a path. That is called as Earth's orbit. And it is having an axis, it is inclined in some direction, and the Earth is rotating by itself and revolving around the sun in a path. That is called as an orbit. If there is a variation in the Earth's motion, so if the rotation has got a slight tilting or changes, it leads to the seasonal distribution of sunlight reaching the Earth's surface. So how that it inclines? So if there is a change in the slight movement or in the orbit movement, automatically how much amount of sunlight that is coming at one part, you will get excess amount of sunlight, or at many parts you get more amount of sunlight. As a result, very particularly because of the sunlight, an uneven heating of the earth's surface happens. That is responsible for wind. So the wind again responsible for the movement of clouds. It creates a pressure in the ocean. So automatically disasters are becoming more frequent. Disasters in the sense water based disasters, particularly cyclones and floods, are becoming more frequent these days. The best example is the Chennai floods. Another thing is there are some repetitive cycles in the Earth's orbit that occur over ten thousands of years, which can influence the angle and timing of the sunlight. What angle or direction the sunlight is coming onto the Earth's orbit. So that repetitive cycle also people are analyzing, and they are saying that the angle and timing of the sunlight has got a major influence on the climate change. Well, next we will see about the tectonic plate movements. So the position of the continent. Continent means what? It is a landmass. It is being arranged in the surface of the earth. We know that the earth two-thirds is covered by water and one-third is land. So each land is arranged in a specific manner, and the topography also varies. So over a period of time the land masses got separated or joined together. So that actually determines the geometry of the oceans. Geometry means what? So whether it is exactly at the right angle or in a triangular manner, so all these things accounts on the arrangement of the oceans, the arrangement of the continents, sorry. So the arrangement of the continents determine the geometry of the oceans, in the sense the landmass. Now it influences the patterns of ocean circulation. Influencing the patterns of ocean circulation, in the sense the land mass and the ocean have got a continuous interaction. So you know that which gets heated faster, the land gets heated faster and gets cooled down faster. So automatically the ocean current and the wind is again influenced by the land mass. Another thing, seas actually act as a sink for not only carbon dioxide, it transfers the heat and moisture across the globe. So you find various continents. For example, India is a subcontinent. We are in Asia, Africa, America, Australia. These are all different continents. So they are around surrounded by seas. So their heat and moisture is being balanced by the oceans and the seas. And another interesting example you have to say, between Atlantic and Pacific Ocean, there was Isthmus of Panama, a land. Now it has completely shut off the mixing because a land is being formed. So 5 million years ago, the Isthmus of Panama has been formed. So this is an example for the tectonic movement. In fact, people say that Himalayas were once submerged in sea, and over the movement of the tectonic plate, another thing, the continental drift has happened and it has made the movement of the Himalayas towards the north. And very many continents were joined with India, and that is also one of the prime reasons cited for India's rich biodiversity. So this tectonic plate movements also plays a major role in the climate change, but that is a natural process. Now coming to the volcanic eruptions, of course, when volcano erupts, it releases a huge mass of gases, high amount of heat, dust with its lava, which we call it as a molten magma, which will be flowing. So it injects lot of tiny particles, ashes, and into the stratosphere. So till now, we have people have said that 100,000 tons of sulfur dioxide has been splashed from the volcanoes, that is acting as a cover in the atmosphere, so that it prevents the heat escaping from the surface of the earth. So automatically the earth surface is getting warmed up. Another thing is the optical properties. For example, a particle can absorb it, reflect it, or refract it. And the sulfate aerosols, their properties, they can scintillate it, they can beautifully scatter the solar radiation. So more amount of energy budget is happening happening, more amount of energy is being added into the surface of the earth. So ultimately, volcanic eruptions is also a natural process happening and contributing for the change in the climate of the whole earth. Now coming to the point, this is quite an important aspect, the greenhouse gases. So if you just to look onto the graph, over thousands of years ago, the concentration of carbon dioxide has been increased. And the increase is related with from 1750 to 2000, and you could find a graph gradually, a black patch gradually increasing. What does that indicate? Good amount of industrial establishment, science and technology happened, and to have a comfortable environment, civilization, all these factors drive for a complete industrial revolution where large amount of industries have been set. Parallelly, the population was also growing, so they had a balance with the employment and other things. In the whole event, very particularly, people were very much amazed about the power, how to generate electricity, because electricity gave enormous amount of comfort to people. Very particularly, it helped in the transportation and the exploitation of fossil fuels, where the application is very fantastic, where it helped in the transportation. Automatically, it released enormous amount of greenhouse gases, particularly carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, which come from the coal-fired power plants. They totally made the system to get hot, and it trapped high amount of infrared light and start emanating back to the earth's surface. They act as something like a shield or a cover reflecting back. So that is what we call it as a greenhouse gas. See, greenhouse in the sense, in Arctics, when people wanted to have warmth to grow tomatoes, they kept the tomato plants in a glass house. So the tomato plants will release carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide cannot escape out. It is being trapped in the glass house, and the heat generated by the carbon dioxide in fact enhanced the growth of the tomatoes. That is called as a greenhouse. Typically, a greenhouse effect is happening. The whole earth is concealed by a glass of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases such as methane, oxides of sulfur and nitrogen. It is not allowing the heat to escape out of the earth's surface. As a result, the heat is retained on the earth's surface and the earth's surface is getting warmed up. Now, if you just look on to the climate change reports. So, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change gave the report. The global average temperature has increased from zero point 0.6 plus or minus zero point 0.2. So, over the last century, it has been increased. The mean surface temperature, what is the surface temperature, will rise up to 1.4 to 5.8 degrees centigrade. This is what the prediction being said, and it is being gradually reflected, experienced by people of different continents. Another thing is, because of this climate change increase in the temperature, people are fearing that there could be extreme weather frequency. Particularly, it may lead into floods or drought. Another thing, it can lead to more heat waves than cold spells. And El Nino means it can lead into a sudden climate change, sudden cloud burst, that is called as an El Nino. And the global mean sea level is also expected to rise by 9 to 88 centimeter. So what? The question comes. Many of our coastal establishments, like hotels or whatever it might be, fishermen community, all these things will be gradually inundated and more flooding can happen. So it becomes a trouble to keep an embankment. That embankment should protect us from the strong waves. Already the levels are increasing, so it can lead into more amount of natural disaster. So that is the caution given by this Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Now coming to the consequences, what will happen if the temperature is increasing? See, many people make an argument that in summer we feel ourselves hot, warm. In the winter we find cold. So accordingly, I change my dresses and go on. But as an individual, we are experiencing and saying that it is so warm. We switch on our air conditioner or fan or whatever it might be. We just go on. But we are not completely aware of the consequences which are there. First thing, melting of glaciers. In fact, this is the Glacier National Park, and the photo indicates that whatever the white color patch we call it as an ice glaciers, 150 glaciers were there in 1850, and today only 26. You can still find near the mountains some white patch in the colored picture. So what does that indicate? There is a melting of glaciers happening. If melting of glaciers are happening, it increase the flow of water. It might gradually increase the flow of water in the river and gradually increase the level in the oceans. So the sea ice is dwindling in the northern hemisphere. So automatically the melting, so the sea levels are also increasing. And the satellites have taken an average on seen that average Arctic sea ice. So we are taking satellite pictures on the about our globe. What happens to these glaciers? Are they melting? What is their size? What is their percentage? And now they have found that it is getting shrunk. Shrunk means it is reducing. When it has to get reduced, it has to get melted. Unless it gets melted, it cannot shrink into size. So it is very clear melting of glaciers is happening, and they have found that it is somewhere around 2.7 percentage. Maybe it might be looking a very meager amount. The problem that being forecasted is another year it might even rise up to 5 to 10%. So automatically the sea levels might get increased, and it can lead into a severe consequence over the coastal region. That is the consequence we have to understand, effect or the negative impact we are experiencing because of the climate change. Now, because of these consequences, this IPCC has said that these area have to be marked upon. First thing, Nile Delta in Egypt. Egypt, you know that it is a desert area, and Nile River is the only river supporting the entire Egypt. So if the Nile Delta gets spoiled, already Egypt is in a desert, the desertification process will get enhanced. Another point, accelerated. So it might lead into trouble. Second thing, Ganges Brahmaputra Delta in Bangladesh. A part is there also in India. In fact, Ganges Brahmaputra Delta is a very fertile area. If more water and other thing, more siltation, soil erosion can happen. And also in Maldives Islands and Marshall Islands, these islands may get submerged because we found that 8 to 99 centimeter increase is expected by another 10 years or 5 years. Another thing is droughts and floods are happening. One side you find extreme amount of water, on the other side there is no rainfall, there is an uneven distribution of rainfall. That area becomes dry and it reaches into a desertification process. Another thing, because of it, we are getting the drinking clean water is reduced. Reduction in the availability of drinking clean water is again into a perspective. Not only a water, it could be any land or a wetland, even the whole agricultural process may be put into whole trouble. So this is a point to be noted. These are the consequences we are going to experience because of the climate change. Another thing is spread of the infectious diseases, very particularly diarrheal diseases. Whenever flood or cyclones happens, there are chances of the disturbance of the sewage system. The sewage water might get mixed along with the flood water. So first the availability of drinking water comes into a picture, and even if you get a drinking water, it can mixed along with the human fecal matter and it can lead into diarrheal diseases. Another thing, increase in the pests, very particularly mosquitoes, and they are responsible for most of the vector-borne diseases. Yes, it can cause malaria, dengue, filariasis, yellow fever. All these things are expected, and the picture shows that this is a Aedes mosquito which can cause dengue because the freshwater stagnation happens, uneven rainfall. That gives a breeding ground for the mosquitoes. In addition to that, increase in the pests, yes, locusts, and we can find grasshoppers, other borer worms. All these things can increase. That can have a considerable impact on the agriculture. Another point to be noted down is starvation and malnutrition. Because of the unavailability of the proper nutritious food in many parts, already it is seen, witnessed in Africa. Many children are put into malnutrition, and the starvation can also happen because of the unavailability of the, less availability of food and less accessibility to food. So these are some of the serious consequences we have to seriously register into our mind and act accordingly. Now, what are the potential climate change impact if you just overall, if you just look on health? Weather related mortality. Because of the heat waves, many of the older people have got the heat shock. So in Hyderabad, of course, it has been recorded in the media also. Somewhere around 2 to 3, 4 elderly people died because of the heat wave or heat shock. And it is more prevalent in our country also. So what does that indicate? We could not be in a position to withstand, or our body condition is not able to withstand the high temperature. Point one. Second thing, lot of infectious diseases are also being spreading. In fact, if you just look on in 2018-19, so they are very clearly said that malaria and dengue prevalence in India is quite to be noted. Although it is not appreciable, it is seen. So infectious diseases, very particularly diarrhea and vector-borne diseases, are also in the shape. Neither it is not increased or anything, but the level is maintaining. So what does that indicate? Another thing is air quality respiratory diseases because of the pollutant gases. We have found the air quality to be deteriorated, and we find lot of breathing illness, respiratory illness. Another thing is because of the less amount of water, so the crop yield is also less, and the agricultural demand for water is also increasing. So sharing of rivers, enough trouble over the inter-state conflicts, all these things are happening in India. Another thing is, so what does that indicate? So now, because of the increase in temperature, we could not be in a position to balance the agriculture. Second, forest consumption. In fact, if you just look on comparing to India, other parts of the globe experience heavily, because India could be able to balance with the temperature and other things surrounding the sea, and to an extent of the better forest cover to an extent. But the problem is we should be more caution and improve the forest cover by afforestation practices. So geographic range of the forest is also declining. Another thing is water resources, very particularly the drinking water supply, very particularly the wetlands are getting deteriorated not only because of the solid waste management, because of the climate change. There is no rainfall, poor monsoon, so the wetlands get not recharged properly. And we are very much bothered about the coastal areas, very particularly erosion of beaches, and we also have experienced a good number of cyclones and floods. So we require more emphasis on the protection of the coastal communities. That is a point to be noted. And many of the species, very particularly the plants and animals, have lost their habitat because of the climate change, because of the shrinking of the forest in a natural manner, of course, accelerated by the deforestation. So the desertification process is found to be enhanced. So many species die, and they could not able to find a proper habitat for their survival. So this is the potential climate changes impact in summary given by the intercontinental or intergovernmental panel for climate change. Thank you. Now we will discuss about global warming. Global warming in the literal sense means the earth is getting heated up. So there is a warmth means an increase in temperature is witnessed or noticed. If you just look onto the figure, you could find the glaciers are melting, there is an increase in the sea level, uneven rain distribution, seasonal monsoon pattern gets changed. As a result, it has got an impact on the crops, and the topography itself get disturbed, and the habitat of the animals are being put into a severe question. All these things. In simpler terms, if you find the average temperature of the Earth's climate system is increasing, is gradually increasing. So that is referred to as global warming, rising global surface temperature. As a result, the first impact you find is changes in the rainfall, very particularly changes in the seasonal pattern. Another thing is, this is a change from the pre-industrial era. If you just look on to the increase in temperature after 1880, and very particularly due to industrial revolution, where enormous amount of industrial establishments cropped up, and more amount of exploitation of the fossil fuels, very particularly petrol, coal and diesel used for our transport and industries, have got an impact of increasing the temperature. So from the 2009 to 2018, that is in the last decade, you could find the temperature to increase by around 0.93 degrees centigrade. So it means that warmer than the pre-industrial baseline, comparing to those decades in the last over 100 years or whatever it might be, comparing to the pre-industrial era and other thing. So gradually after the industrial development or industrial revolution, there is an increase in the temperature. That is what that red line in the graph indicates. Now, what are the drivers making for the climate change? So it is very clear that the globe is getting heated up. There is an increase in temperature. So who are driving it? Who are accelerating the process? That we have to know. First thing, you just look on to the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a major gas released out of the industrial activities. If you just look on to the atmosphere, carbon dioxide is considered to be a minor gas. But our industrial activities, fossil fuel usage and other things, the carbon dioxide emission is more. And the carbon dioxide emission is more because of an incomplete combustion. And next thing is methane. Third thing is halogens, very particularly chlorine based items, chlorofluorocarbons, nitrous oxides, and of course the other oxides, sulfur and other thing. And if you just look on aerosols, land reflectivity change, sun natural change, these are also making a important factor. As a result, the radiative forcing means high amount of radiations are pumped in or forced on the earth's surface. So these drivers, very particularly the greenhouse gases and the aerosols, we have seen that the aerosol has got the better scattering ability. So the radiation is well dispersed all over the earth's surface. So automatically the mean average, that is the average temperature of the earth's surface, is gradually on a rise. So that is a point to be noted. In nutshell, you can find that the physical drivers of climate change goes with the greenhouse gases, particularly the carbon dioxide, methane, halogens and nitrous oxide, in addition to the aerosols, and also due to the sun natural change. Now coming to the greenhouse gases. So we have listed carbon dioxide, methane, all these things are greenhouse gases. As I have been telling you in the same example, repeating the same example, greenhouse is a glass concealment. So in the poles, whenever they wanted to grow crops like tomatoes or other thing, these crops require warmth for their metabolic activity and growth. So these tomato plants were initially kept in a glass house where the tomato plants expel carbon dioxide during the daytime. So you have seen in the photosynthesis process, they take in oxygen and release out carbon dioxide. Since this is a glass concealment, the carbon dioxide gas accumulated inside the chamber, and because of the glass surface, again it got reflected back, radiating warmth. As a result, there was a good growth in the crop because the surrounding environment was very cold. Now, we are letting out all the greenhouse gases, particularly carbon dioxide, methane, hydrofluorocarbons, all these things. They just go and act as a glass concealment on the Earth's atmosphere, and it is again re-radiating the heat back to the Earth. When it is re-radiating the trapped heat back to the Earth, the global temperature rises. So, very particularly, the infrared radiation absorbed and emitted by these gases warming the lower atmosphere and the surfaces. Very particularly, when the heat is released back in the form of a infrared radiation, it is re-radiated back. Another thing is, comparing to the pre-industrial revolution to now, the greenhouse gases has increased. That is being illustrated by a graph in the last presentation or picture. Now, that means that comparing to the pre-industrial era, we can keep that as an 18th century. Today, the temperature has increased to 33 degrees centigrade during the summer. So, what does that mean? The Earth was actually a cool, and the global rise in temperature was a natural and a gradual process. It was a conducive environment. Now the environment has changed. As a result, all these climatic disturbances result in the less yield, very particularly in the agricultural crops, and the emergence of vector-borne diseases. So these two things have to be clearly understood. Another thing, if you look at the global anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions in 2018, the calculation says that we have given somewhere around 52 billion tons of carbon dioxide through our industrial and transport activity. We have pumped this much amount of carbon dioxide, 52 billion tons, to the atmosphere. So it is acting as a complete carbon shield and radiating the trapped heat back to the earth, raising the temperature. Second thing, if you just look on how this percentage is constituted. So 72% come from fossil fuel burning, very particularly through the burning through transport and other industry or whatever it might be. 19% was from methane. Of course, even people say that through cows you get methane emission, and it is largely from the livestock. 6% nitrous oxide and 3% from the fluorinated gases. So this is the situation where you find the enormous emission of the greenhouse gases. Coming to the next point, 4 billion tons of carbon dioxide was released as a consequence of land change. It means that many of the agricultural crops are being cleared, deforestation happened, it resulted in the increase in the greenhouse gases. So if you just look on a production which is giving more amount of greenhouse gases, electricity and heat. Electricity and heat are the major sectors where we consume high amount of coal or fossil fuel that has made into a release of carbon dioxide. Second thing, agriculture and forestry activities, very particularly clearing of the forests for timber and other thing, of course industries, and by and large through transportation, somewhere around 14% has come because of this. So this is what that research statistics says. Now, if you just look on to the percentage of greenhouse gases as a whole, 72% is given only by carbon dioxide, and nitrous oxide occupies 6%, methane is 19%. So this is what the arrangement of the greenhouse gases, if you find, which occupies the major percentage. And another thing is 4 billion tons of carbon dioxide is given for deforestation. The primary sources, in fact, on a practical point of view, this is the global GHG emissions where you find through electricity and heat, agriculture and forestry, industry and transportation. So if you just look onto the whole aspect of greenhouse effect, it is very clear the greenhouse effect is happening due to carbon dioxide. The primary emission is through industry and transport, very particularly because of the fossil fuel combustion. And second comes the methane. So this is what the arrangement you find the greenhouse gas emission on a global perspective. So this is a typical picture which is showing that the sun, from the sun it is coming, the sunlight is coming and the radiations are emanating back, and you find water to be there. Sometimes it gets act as a scattering material. it gets scatters and re-reflects the heat trapped over the environment, particularly carbon dioxide plays back. When it re-reflects the trapped heat from the atmosphere, the global surface temperature of the earth also increase. It is typically like a greenhouse. Now coming to the cooling factors or other thing, of course, this is again a point to be noted. See, the radioactive forcing, you find the white upper clouds through volcanic eruptions, it goes again, it reflects back because of the biomass burning, it goes and get trapped there. Again, the heat is getting back. Deserts and dust storms, very particularly the aerosols. We have seen that aerosols have got good scattering capability. Burning of oil and coal also increases the heat. Barren lands where methane is also being released not only from the livestock, ice and land snow. So in fact, it is again reflecting back continuously, thereby increasing the temperature of the surrounding environment. Now, if you just look on what are the impacts of the greenhouse gas, if you just look on to the impact of the greenhouse gas, first thing, as I told you, it is a global rise in the temperature and a rise in sea level. Very particularly, it results in lot of vector-borne diseases that impact the human health, and low yield in the agricultural crops, and pest emergence is also more, and vector-borne diseases are also more. The picture very clearly says that there is a melting of glaciers, the polar bears are being put into trouble, and there is a decline in the crop production also, that is also reflected in the picture. So if you just quickly look on to or to compare between the effects of global warming, climate change and greenhouse effect, it is very clear. First thing, a temperature rise. As a result, melting of glaciers. As a result, increase in sea level. As a problem, coastal areas are getting disturbed. When coastal areas are getting disturbed, another thing, there happens lot of natural disasters, particularly cyclones and floods are becoming common. When they are becoming common, the agricultural lands are being inundated. So salinity, waterlogging problems are the other associated problems. So crop yield is getting declined, and as a result we could not able to suffice our food requirement. So it leads to starvation and malnutrition. Another issue is because of this the metabolic activity at one place increases, where it leads to the emergence of vector-borne diseases, particularly mosquito bites or other thing. It is leading into trouble. So it is a complex cyclical event. Climate change, global warming are interlinked together through greenhouse gas. So this is the point we have to understand. Now coming to acid rain. Acid rain. The rain should have a pH somewhere around 6.8 or 6.7. So the pH, if you just look on, 7 is found to be neutral, less than 7, that is 6, 5, 4 are considered to be acidic, greater than 7, 8, 9 are 10 to be considered to be alkaline. When you measure the pH of the rainwater, you will not exactly get 7. Of course, rainwater is the best filtered water. Why we are not able to catch 7 means the water when it comes down, it easily being diffused with carbon dioxide. As a result, a mild amount of carbonic acid is formed. So it is very difficult to measure the absolute pH in the rainwater. If the rainwater contains less than 5.6 or other thing, it is considered to be a acid rain. So the precursors or the factors responsible include the sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, gases or other fine particles in the atmosphere. They combine with the water vapor and precipitate back as sulfuric acid or nitric acid rain in the form of a rain, snow or fog. So that we have to understand.